Welcome to today's episode. We're going to take a quick look at an extraordinary piece of work and the artist behind it. I'm your host, and joining me is the mysterious, brilliant mind known simply as Shadowssphere, the anonymous author-musician behind The Velvet Mask. Many of you have been moved by the raw emotion and musicality of both the novel and its companion album. Today, we'll be going deep into the heart of the book itself, its pages, its pain, and the echoes that linger long after the story ends.
Thanks for having me again.
You've described The Velvet Mask as more than just fiction, as a sort of secret map, a mirror for grief, identity, and love in pieces. For listeners who haven't cracked open the first page yet, how would you put it into words?
I think the simplest way to describe it is, it's a love letter to loss. The main character, River, is a doctor who is unraveling, struggling with the recent death of his adoptive mother, a crumbling marriage, and the secret double life he leads as a musician. He's buried under guilt and silence. He's desperately holding on to fragments of himself. Then, unexpectedly, Kate, someone from his past, reappears, and everything is set in motion. What follows is his journey through breakdown, addiction, emotional numbness, and little by little into something like healing.
What really struck me, reading it, is how the boundaries between truth and fiction are so delicately blurred. It reads intimately, almost like a diary, yet you've said before it isn't your autobiography.
That's right. River isn't me, but he absolutely carries so much of me. The fears, the isolation, the hunger to be understood yet wanting so badly to disappear. Those are mine. But creating River allowed me to explore what I never could in my own skin. He could survive things I couldn't, and through writing him in a way, I got to survive too.
There's definitely a unique texture to your writing. It's unflinching. You once said you refused to write what you called clean pain. What do you mean by that?
We're surrounded by stylized pain these days, right? Social media grief, heartbreak filtered and curated until it almost looks aesthetic. But real pain isn't beautiful. It's jagged, awkward, isolating, even a little embarrassing. I didn't want River's story to be easy. I didn't want readers to romanticize his spiral. I want you to feel how hard recovery actually is, how it costs something, like there's a passage where he tries desperately to speak and all that escapes is silence, or another scene where he's playing guitar with raw, bleeding fingers just to remind himself that he's alive and still capable of feeling something, even if it's just pain. It had to be messy, because that's the truth of it.
That honesty bleeds into your sentences too. The style itself is incredibly lyrical, sometimes almost musical. Was that a conscious choice?
Absolutely. Music is my native language, I think. I wrote the book in the same way I approach songwriting. Each chapter is like a track, right? Some rush and run with breathless energy. That's River spiraling. Other sections cut sharp and short, like he's underwater, and sound is dulled. The book itself, really, is a stitched-together song broken up into verses and choruses.
Speaking of music, you released a companion album under your artist name, Shadowssphere. How do the songs relate to the novel?
The album is River's voice, what he can't say in the book, what he can only feel. Each song matches an emotional arc in the story: guilt, longing, betrayal, hope. Some lyrics actually overlap with River's dialogue, or are taken straight from his notebooks in the novel. Others are things he never found the courage to speak aloud. If the story is what happens to him, the music is what happens inside him.
Do you have a favorite track from the album? One that means the most to you?
Ghosts Don't Let Go. It's probably the closest to my own heart. The track opens with a voicemail, just empty static and breath, that feeling when you want to speak but can't. Then the music grows into this private kind of reckoning, exploding quietly. For River, and maybe for me too, that song is the heart of the story.
I love that. Now, how has it felt to see people discovering The Velvet Mask? Sometimes reading and listening at the same time. I imagine that feedback is powerful.
It's completely surreal. I get messages from people saying, I was reading chapter 17 on loop with track 5 and just cried. Or others who tell me the lines they highlighted at 2 a.m. because it was finally what they were afraid to feel. That was always the hope, not to destroy anyone, but to reach them, to let them know their darkness isn't just theirs to carry, that even in pain there's resonance, and maybe a little light.
You made the bold choice not to wrap up the ending with a neat bow. No easy answers. But you leave the reader with something like hope. Talk a bit about that decision.
Life is rarely tidy. We don't get to package our pain up and ship it off at the end, but I think it's important to offer possibility, even if it's uncertain. River doesn't get everything he lost back, but he gets a little bit of peace, a breath, maybe the chance to start again. Sometimes that's enough.
For someone picking up your book for the first time, what would you want to say to them?
Read it with patience, let it hurt, and let it linger. If you feel echoes of your own life in River's pain or his search for meaning, just know that's not just fiction. It's a hand reaching out. You aren't alone in your shadows.
And for the readers and listeners who have already been through the journey, what's your message for them now?
Thank you for letting me share something heavy. If this story, these songs, helped you carry your own grief even for a minute, then every sleepless night writing was worth it.
The Velvet Mask is out now, and the companion album by Shadowssphere is streaming everywhere. If you were moved, consider sharing it, or maybe just hold it close. Sometimes the stories that change us the most are the hardest to explain, but the easiest to feel.
Exactly.
Next week, we'll talk about what comes after the last page, the aftermath, the conversations that happen in the quiet, and what it means when someone finally sees behind your mask. Until then, keep listening and keep feeling. Thank you, Shadowssphere.
Thank you again, Morgan.
You walked away like it was easy to breathe. You left your name carved into everything I keep. I don't